Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen? We are back for another episode of the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Austin. I am your host. Super happy to be here as always, and we are brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you to them for putting it on, and thank you to you guys for all the support that you've been showing. Just would love if you guys would like and subscribe, comment on a video. If you have any opinions that you like or dislike from me, I would love to hear it. Also, make sure you guys are checking out the Patreon segments. Patreon segments coming every single day, Monday through Friday. 2 extra segments of fantasy football coverage from me, and that's the only place you can get it is over there at the Patreon. So, link is in the description for that. And then, if you guys want to ask a question, drop a tip. You can do that either on the YouTube with the super chat, or you could just go and drop down at streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network to drop a tip or a donation on us. I'm here giving you guys this content for free every single day, working very hard, so that would be very appreciated if you guys want to support the show. Today we're going to be talking about rankings and tiers. I just got no notebook today, just going to be kind of off the dome, giving you guys my thoughts and opinions, rankings and tiers for these players. I think we're gonna do fantasy offenses first. Just kind of talk about the offenses that I believe in this year versus the offenses that I absolutely don't believe in, and then we'll go into quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs for the other segments. Going to give you guys 4 full segments today, and like I said, super excited to be here. Update on the Leonard Fournette jersey. It should be here soon to burn. And then, guys, make sure you're interacting with the YouTube Shorts. I'm sure it comes across your feed. Want to, see the support and love over there too. It's all appreciated. If you guys have a question, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I would love to answer any fantasy football questions that you guys could possibly have at all. Let's start with my fantasy offensive power rankings, just so you guys can see here. This is kind of a floating picture. We got the top tier gentlemen, the hardworking and talented gentlemen at tier 2. Then we got the we can rock with these gentlemen at tier 3. Guys that I still believe in. We'll get into it soon. Decent gentlemen on paper, but we'll definitely no call, no show on you. Those gentlemen. Then we got the upper class gentlemen, the upper middle class gentlemen. So these are all like teams that are contending, teams that are not that bad. And then we got the 50 feet of crap, and that's after the 50 feet of crap is where the Patriots, Broncos, Giants, and Panthers sit. Not very good at all. We'll make sure to touch on all these guys. Want to kind of talk about every team a little bit. So let's start with my top tier gentlemen, but even in the picture, it just says gentlemen. And, in all caps, these are the gentlemen in the NFL to be worried about, ones that we're going to want to be investing in, especially these top tier quarterbacks. And the quarterback segment is next, so make sure you stay for that. Let's start off talking about San Francisco 49ers. Just came off a loss versus the Browns in a really weird one, a really rainy one. Obviously, the weather was affecting that. If you guys are watching the podcast, I'm always giving you updates on the weather report so you're not confused on that type of stuff happening. Make sure you guys are always checking the weather going into the game. But yeah, super fluky one over there in Cleveland. And I'm still in love with the San Francisco 49ers offense, completely in love with them. Brock Purdy, still a very good decision maker, very good quarterback, young, and has bought into that system. I know that Kyle Shanahan and him are tight, and I really don't see any problems with them moving forward unless there's some inclement weather that is happening. They got the CMAC show every single day, 14 straight touchdowns, maybe 15 straight touchdowns in a row at this point. He's a lock to score a touchdown pretty much every single game, and love watching him work until he got that oblique rib injury in the game that sent him out, and he wasn't able to play the rest of the game. Also, Deebo Samuel got injured there. It's looking like they're trending towards playing here on Sunday. in their next matchup, so definitely good. They have an elite offensive line, elite weapons at every single spot, pretty much all pros. A lot of people are treating Deebo Samuel like he's not him and not a guy who, is a Pro Bowl type player. He absolutely is. He's a tier 1 type wide receiver. And I really, really like him. And I probably like Brandon Ayuk even a little bit more just from a wide receiver perspective and his route running. Deebo's kind of like the bruising wide receiver. They stick him at running back and, he'll do some running back duties. Brandon Ayuk more of the get out in space, run a corner route, burn everybody, and Brock Purdy is locked in with those two guys as far as wide receivers. Then they even have Kittle, who makes his appearances. Absolutely a top tier offense. Then we got the Chiefs. I was kind of debating, should I put the Chiefs at the elite gentlemen or should I put them at the second elite gentleman? Because they haven't been putting up the points that we're used to seeing here from the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think they just got Mecole Hardman back. They just retraded for him after, Mecole Hardman had his stint with the Jets where he was getting literally no playing time at all. So that was cool to see. Patrick Mahomes going to have another elite speed threat that he already has chemistry with that's going to come back. And I think that is pretty much going to send them up into that top tier. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league. So solid, can make any throw from any angle, and as long as he's the quarterback, I like them being a top-tier team. We're kind of worried about the pass catchers as far as, their wide receivers. Sky Moore has disappeared. What's his name? Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who was, I say this all the time, but he was literally sitting out, during the preseason, act like he was one of these top guys. He's obviously one of the higher paid wide receivers on this team too, and he's been completely non-existent in this offense, which is really, really surprising to me. Sky Moore and Valdes-Scantling both disappeared. Rashee Rice is looking like the only viable option. Kadarius Toney caught a touchdown last week, but not too much work, not too many snaps. But even with all of that stuff going on, players not being productive, Patrick Mahomes still the best quarterback. So if he's out there, the offense is elite, no question. Then we got the Miami Dolphins, who are probably the most dangerous of all teams right now as far as offense goes. Mike McDaniel, I was just listening to a story about Mike McDaniel, which is crazy. I didn't know that he was a coach for the Texans, which is my favorite team. I don't know how I don't know that. And he was an alcoholic, and he showed up late to a team meeting or something and got fired. Redemption, came back and, got his other jobs, whatever. Now he's the coach of the Miami Dolphins, and they're rolling. Their offense looks way better than any other offense. They're so creative, have too much speed, and, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane is going to come back at some point. They literally have 5 guys that run a 4-2. Mostert, Achane, Tyreek, Waddle runs like a 4-3, 4-2. And then apparently they have some kid on their practice squad who's another white receiver who runs like a 4-2. Tyreek was saying that other than him, he's the fastest guy on the entire team. That's crazy. Braxton Berrios is like a 4-4 speed type guy. So they just got speed everywhere. As we know, speed kills. So I'm rocking with Miami Dolphins offense all the way. As we go into the hardworking and talented gentlemen, we need top-tier quarterbacks. We need good quarterbacks to be pioneering these offenses. And I think Jared Goff has etched himself in this year as someone who's going to, act like a, quarterback one in fantasy football, a top-tier quarterback in general. And I really do believe in him. A lot of people don't remember that he was literally the first pick in his draft. He had so much pressure on him, went to a Super Bowl and lost with Todd Gurley, and then has kind of revamped his whole career now, and he's looking much better with a lot of weapons. They just got Jameson Williams back, another 4-3 speed type guy, one of the fastest guys in the league. Josh Reynolds has quietly been solid throughout the year, and then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the most consistent fantasy options at wide receiver that you can get. I'm just loving that offense over there. The Eagles, I'm loving it. Swift is the answer for the backfield. He's absolutely the answer. That we have seen no Rashad Penny, which is crazy that he's not getting any type of work in his offense. One of the most efficient runners, the analytics would tell you, but it looks like they don't need him. They don't need him at all. They don't really need him in the red zone or in that goal line situation, because they'll always just push Jalen Hurts right into the end zone. And Jalen Hurts has 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns already this season. So definitely doing very good. Loving the Eagles offense, like the Bills offense too. Sorry about that, guys. Also loving the Bills offense, absolutely. Josh Allen had a bit of an off game there in Sunday Night Football versus the Giants, but I think that was going to be we're going to write that one off as a fluke as well. They have a ton of good personnel pieces with Diggs. Another 100-yard game. I think that's his 5th out of 6 games having 100 yards, so he's one of the most solid fantasy wide receivers at the moment. Gabe Davis did not catch a touchdown in this game, but he was on 3-game touchdown streak before this one. And then obviously they have James Cook. They got a whole stable of running backs back there with Damian Harris, Latavius Murray. They were looking at Leonard Fournette. I was hoping that Leonard Fournette maybe might get a look or something, but he didn't, so that was upsetting. Love all those guys though. Then we got the Rams, Browns, Seahawks, Jaguars, Chargers. I think they all belong up there as far as fantasy offense. If I had to pick a favorite here, it would definitely be the Chargers, just because they have Justin Herbert, who has a rocket for an arm. I think other than Josh Allen, he might have the strongest arm in the entire league. And they did lose their star wide receiver, Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen's been picking up all that slack. They just got Austin Eckler back, who both of them are, top 5 guys at their position, and Justin Herbert in that offense will be supporting that for, probably the rest of the season, because their defense can't do anything. Their offense is shouldering the load pretty much for the Los Angeles Chargers. Then we got the Jags. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is too elite, but I still got to put them up there just for the rest of their team. Evan Ingram's been hooping. Travis Etienne has been really good. And then Christian Kirk has been solid. Calvin Ridley a little bit here and there. Still like that squad. Seahawks. Kenneth Walker has been a beast. He's been an absolute savage. Loving what I'm seeing from him. I think he's at a touchdown per game this year, and he's running really hard. He's getting involved in the passing game. Love that. And that offense, Geno Smith is the guy who's down a tier as far as their offense goes. I like Tyler Lockett. I like DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker is talking about, or he's showing that he is that type of guy that needs to be ranked as a top running back in the league. So love them. Browns getting Deshaun Watson back. Like their whole offense and their whole personnel for sure. And then got to talk about the Rams and Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is going to be a top 3 wide receiver to finish this fantasy football season, barring any injury, in my opinion. And then we got these guys, Ravens, Cowboys, should be considered elite. Those are elite teams with elite personnel, solid quarterback play, usually if Dak Prescott's getting it done. But they'll definitely no call, no show on you. They'll absolutely be the teams to let you down, from a fantasy perspective, from whether you're trying to back them or not. It's just a tough offense to look for. So we don't know about them yet. We're still going to give them some time to figure their stuff out. We got upper middle class, lower middle class teams. I had to switch the Bengals. I had them a little bit higher on the no call, no show list, but I'm switching them down to the lower middle class as far as their fantasy offense goes. We haven't seen anything from T. Higgins in a while, obviously coming off the rib injury, but not liking what I'm seeing from T. Higgins. So drop them down. The Packers and Jordan Love, real bad. Cardinals are going to get Kyler Murray here back pretty soon. He just started practicing today, so that's a good sign. Maybe they can start moving up a little bit, but their defense doesn't really support that theory anyways. I like the Texans, obviously. My squad, CJ Stroud's looking good. He was competitive again this week, so love to see that. These other teams mostly struggling with quarterback play. Vikings have no reason to be in the spot that they're in. I think they're 2-4 at the moment, and they just have so much talent on their offense. It makes no sense. Even without Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison has already looked great. TJ Hawkinson's a top 3 tight end in the league. And, they got their other guys that are coming in, KJ Osborne, Brandon Powell, who I think are relevant fantasy options if Kirk Cousins and the guys are going to continue to throw the ball 40 times a game. That's pretty much my take. I don't even think we got to worry about any of the guys on the bottom. If you're investing in the Patriots, Broncos, Giants, or Panthers offense, unless you're talking about their main player, their best player, the guy who they're leaning on the most, a guy like Adam Thielen for the Panthers, Saquon for the Giants, and then I guess Ramondre Stevenson or something like that. The whole Patriots offense, we can throw that away. They need to go back to college. Bill Belichick will be out of a job in the next couple years here soon. That's kind of my take on the fantasy offenses at the moment. Guys, when I come back, let's talk quarterbacks, and I'll give you my quarterback rankings and tier list. What's happening, everybody? Back for episode GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's talk quarterbacks in this segment. Definitely got to talk about these guys. They're the leader of the team. They're numero unos. I'm going to give you guys kind of like funny little tier list mostly, but here we're going to go with just the SABCD bobblehead. I got Kyler Murray there at the bobblehead spot. And then we got the F tier, guys that you absolutely can't be investing in as far as fantasy goes. And let's kind of talk about this top to bottom. Starting with Jalen Hurts, man. I think Jalen Hurts is probably the most valuable quarterback you can own right now in fantasy football. He does it from the pocket. It's not like he really wants to like run around and do all this stuff like he's Justin Fields or something like that. He's pretty cool to sit back in the pocket. He has elite weapons to go to. AJ Brown solidifying himself right now as a top 3 wide receiver in the league. Devontae Smith also going to pick up any work that AJ Brown's not able to get, and then Dallas Goedert has slowly been heating up this season too. He's got Swift, who is technically like a receiving back. They haven't really been using him too much as of that, but he has him as a weapon. Swift's going to take off a lot of the pressure and set up the play action with his rushing ability and his quickness through the hole. He's got one of the most solid offensive lines with guys like obviously Jason Kelsey and Landon Dickerson up there doing the work for them. So love Jalen Hurts. Think he's in the best possible scenario, best possible spot he could be in, and the most valuable fantasy quarterback at the moment. We got Josh Allen. I think he's up there too. Obviously a solid guy, doing a lot of work. He was on like 300-yard game streak. Obviously that ended here in the Giants game, but still very much believe in him. He's liable to pop off for 40 points any given day. Tua, not going to give you as much of like the rushing that we're seeing guys like Josh Allen, even Patrick Mahomes kind of giving you a little bit of rushing points from a fantasy perspective. Jalen Hurts does that a lot, but whatever he's not doing in rushing, he is doing in the passing game. And as we talked about, too much speed over in the Dolphins camp. Nobody's really messing with these guys. If you have one of these top 4 quarterbacks at the position in your fantasy football team, you're looking solid. Hopefully you can build around these guys. Then I got Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert coming into the season was one of my favorite quarterbacks to be drafting because you could get him at a solid spot, solid ADP, and he's really been proving that he is the guy that we hoped he would be this year in fantasy football so far. He's ranked as like quarterback 10 to 12, around that. Or no, he might even be a little bit higher. He did have his bye week, so that is going to affect it a little bit. Not like it matters too much, but every single week that he's played so far, he's been a top 12 quarterback finisher in that week. This week he was like second or third because we had a really down quarterback week. There was only 3 guys that scored over 20 points. And then on Monday night, Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert both ended up scoring 20 plus in their game that they had there on Monday night. But let's talk Lamar. Lamar obviously going to be considered an elite quarterback. He's doing it the most on the ground right now. I think he's currently leading the league in quarterback rushing yards at the moment. So definitely loving that. He's struggling a little bit with his weapons, but hopefully he can find a guy like Zay Flowers. Odell Beckham is out there beefing with the other team, doing a lot more trash talking than help on the field. But we know he's a talented guy. I know he'll end up getting it done. I am somehow putting Kirk Cousins too at my A-tier list because he gets so much volume. He's like a volume shooter in the NBA. He just gets to throw it or / gets to shoot it as many times as he wants in the game. And even without Justin Jefferson, I think he's still going to be a quarterback that performs in fantasy football, even though we just saw in his matchup versus the Bears he was doing nothing. Super weird. Then we got my B tier, Justin Fields. Loving Justin Fields at the moment. Obviously, he's going to probably sit out this week with his injury. So he's doubtful coming into week 7. But love Justin Fields. Feel like he's giving us a lot with his throwing. I was expecting him more to be like the rushing type guy, and he's content to sit in the pocket right now, throw darts. We'll see if that continues. Most of the time, his line on like FanDuel, DraftKings, stuff like that is set at like 200 yards. So they never expect him to, have big throwing days, and he's been doing that. So I applaud him. He's doing well. We got Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence. These are guys that you can still be starting. Joe Burrow has been less than impressive, but still got to keep him up here, him being the highest paid player in the entire league. CJ Stroud, very impressive rookie. He's the odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year right now, and he's leading the Texans to be competitive in pretty much every game, which everybody's surprised about. Very happy with what I'm seeing from CJ Stroud. And then we got to put Matt Stafford, too, up here at the B tier because he also, just like Kirk Cousins, gets to throw it literally as many times as he wants to during the game. And he's got 2 elite weapons. Puka Nacua already solidifying himself as an elite weapon in this offense. And Cooper Kupp has been that guy for the past 5-6 million years that he has been playing. So definitely can appreciate those guys. I think those are worthy starters in fantasy football right now. Moving into the C tier, these are guys who are much less viable, much less worthy to be on your fantasy roster, but definitely guys who are going to be, in and out, especially if you're running like a 2-quarterback setup when you're playing the matchup. And I think that's a solid strategy usually if you don't have one of these elite guys to have kind of 2 quarterbacks, whoever's going up against the worst team. That's the guy that you start or the guy that you believe in the most week to week. Jimmy, I don't even know how I put Mac here at the C tier, but apparently Bill Belichick is going to continue to believe in him, so I feel like based on volume, you can continue to start him. I also got Dak Prescott right there, Gardner Minshew, and then Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's going to be my guy that I believe in the most here on the C tier. A lot of people are still not rocking with Russell Wilson. It's not like I'm rocking with his offense or anything like that. They've been inefficient all year, but Russell Wilson is that guy. He had a really good offseason. I can tell that he is still, he has that pep in his step. He has a lot of juice left in his arm and his legs. So he'll continue to try to make plays for this poverty failing Broncos team. I don't know if they'll ever get it together. Moving down here to the D tier guys. Gonna unlock this real quick. These are guys that you absolutely, besides Sam Howell, Geno Smith, these are guys we really don't want to be starting unless you're desperate. If I had to pick someone on this list right now, I guess it would be Sam Howell or Geno Smith. I'm technically liking what I'm seeing from Sam Howell. I was telling you guys a little bit earlier that I picked him up when Justin Herbert had his bye. He came in, dropped 26 points on my team. I was like, thank you, Sam. You were a good guy for that. But he's just another guy, has a great offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy, and he gets the license to throw the ball as many times as he wants. Also, they're going to be down in a number of games that they play this year, so that's just going to lead to more passing attempts for Sam Howell. Jordan Love, I think he's a fraud at the moment. I don't know if he's going to be the guy over there for Green Bay. Bryce Young is too young to make a real opinion on what he's going to do. I definitely thought he was going to be the rookie of the year and come out and ball. We haven't really seen that, but he has no weapons at all. He literally has one Adam Thielen, and that's it. Adam Thielen has 300 more receiving yards than anybody else on the team right now. Very scary situation over there for the Panthers. Geno has good weapons if, he's like a guy that you can have as your second quarterback. And if you have a good matchup, I don't have a problem sticking Geno in there, to play for you in a week where you're in a tight spot. But definitely wouldn't be my first option. Baker Mayfield has been a little bit better, and Derek Carr is just giving us, standard Derek Carr numbers. Kyler Murray could be interesting. We'll see when he is able to come back, just removed from the physically unable to perform list. And apparently he's going to be back working in with this Cardinals squad, take Joshua Dobbs' job when he comes back. And he could be a viable starter. He's a little bobblehead out there. He's really fast. Another 4.4 quarterback. I'm saying another. I think the only 4.4 quarterbacks in the league right now are what? Anthony Richardson, maybe Justin Fields, Lamar, and Kyler Murray. I think that's pretty much it. And then if you're rocking with the F tier, you already lost your fantasy league. You can't start Kenny Pickett. Can't start him. Can't start Zach Wilson. Can't start Daniel Jones. Absolutely can't start Desmond Ridder in any way, even if he's playing at home, which he was undefeated at home in college and in the NFL up until this week, which is crazy. And then absolutely can't start Ryan Tannehill either. Going to steer you guys clear from all of those quarterbacks here in fantasy football this year. Back thoughts and opinions, and then we'll move into the wide receivers for the last segment. What's up, everybody? Austin with the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, back again, talking about wide receivers. Nope, we're talking about running backs here in this segment. Got to talk about the running backs here, my tier rankings. Let me know if you guys think these are funny, if we should switch it up. Any thoughts and opinions, always welcome here at the podcast. And we got some good running backs here, especially at the top. If you have a starting running back and guy is getting those touches, every single starting running back should be getting at least 10 to 12 rushes per game. I like having those guys at the you-lost brother situation, the guys like Alexander Madison, Miles Sanders, who's been less than impressive, guys who split time, and then, the Dalvin Cooks, who've literally gone completely silent. James Conner, Aaron Jones have been sitting out for, multiple weeks. Hopefully we get Aaron Jones back this week, but that is my little tier list here. The oh no, you lost brother, bottom to top. Guys we don't want as much at running back 2, fringe running back 1s, or good running back 2s, and then, solid S tier running backs and, solid running back 1. So let's get into it. Austin Eckler going to be the first guy on the list, no question. As long as he's in there, he always has a chance to score a touchdown. FanDuel has him listed at like minus 230 to score a touchdown in like every single game. One of the best running backs out of the backfield too, catching passes, love him. He's always going to be an S-tier guy. Tony Pollard and Christian McCaffrey, both the type of dual threat running backs that we like to see. That's good receive. Tony Pollard had like 80 yards receiving in this game here against the Chargers when Austin Eckler and Tony Pollard were going up against each other. Austin Eckler didn't really do too much, but this was his first week back from that ankle injury. I know that he has himself in fantasy football, so he is always wanting to do good. He's always talking about that. And, Tony Pollard, CMC are just going to be some of the most solid guys that you can have on your squad. Running back 1s, as of this exact moment, this is due to change for sure, and just based on performance week to week. Usually Wednesdays I'm going to be trying to break down these rankings and tier lists, switching guys where I see fit, constantly. And we got Josh Jacobs up here, another guy who gets like 20 to 25 touches per game, so we love that. He automatically has to get thrown into that running back 1 category. Derrick Henry has been pretty solid. He's back to scoring all the touchdowns, getting those big runs. It's just a problem with his receiving game. If the Titans are down in any given situation, it seems like they're more leaning on Tyjae Spears, the backup rookie, to handle those receiving duties and the pass blocking duties rather than Derrick Henry. So a bit scary, but still going to have him obviously as a running back 1. Bijan Robinson has been less than impressive with his situation with Tyler Algier over there. A very, very scary situation where Bijan, we were thinking, was going to be one of the top running backs to be in fantasy football this year, and we don't know if that's going to happen still with Tyler Algier eating up like 15 carries 4 out of his 6 games. Tyler Algier has had 13 plus carries in a game, so terrible for Bijan Robinson owners, but still going to put him as an elite running back. Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, and Breece Hall, all guys who have been performing. Alvin Kamara obviously had the 3-game suspension and has averaged 19 fantasy points since coming back, so love that. Love what we're seeing from Alvin Kamara. And then we got the fringe running back 1/running back 2s. Joe Mixon, James Cook, Jonathan Taylor is going to fall in there until he starts getting more of a workload. Obviously, we're seeing a ton of Zach Moss at the moment. We were obviously seeing a lot of him the whole season at this point, and he's been performing well. I think they will start to lean back on Jonathan Taylor, the running back who they actually decided to pay and, gave that bag to. So think he'll be moving up into that running back 1 category, but going to have him as like a fringe running back 2 or a fringe running back 1, good running back 2 in his current situation. Love Pacheco, love Swift, even love Brian Robinson Jr. and Saquon Barkley. Only really problem with a guy like Saquon Barkley, who should be a running back 1 consideration, is just the fact that he has no offensive line, first of all, and then he's just in a situation where every single time he steps out onto the field, all eyes are just loaded on Saquon Barkley. The Giants have no other weapons that are elite besides him. I don't know why they don't want to use Jalen Hyatt. Very, very weird to me. Obviously, Jalen Hyatt, an explosive athlete, another 4.3 speed type guy who the Giants aren't using, but I'm sure that they're just trying to tank and not win any more games this year so they can get a high draft pick. Moving forward, guys that we don't want as much at running back 2. Guys that I'm a little afraid to start week to week. Najee Harris, ton of work, gets a ton of carries, ton of touches, not much production. Can't really start him, reasonably. Then we got Rachaad White, who also gets a ton of touches. Most games we were seeing him get like those 18 to 20 touches. These first couple weeks, he went into his bye and came out, played this game here against the Lions and only got like 10 touches. So definitely not great to see, but still have faith in him. Still think he's a talented back. Jahmyr Gibbs has been less than impressive, and he showed that he doesn't have the strength to, be an in-between-the-tackles type runner. I'm sure that with David Montgomery out, Craig Reynolds is going to be making a bit of an appearance in this backfield, and Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to be considered like the receiving back type guy over there in Detroit. Then we got Ramondre Stevenson, who finally, after being asleep for these past couple weeks, finally had a good performance, a decent performance where he had 5 receptions for like 50 or 5 receptions for 24 yards. We'll take the fantasy points, man. At this point, still going to classify him as a guy that we don't want nearly as much at running back 2. But if he finds a way to be the guy that he has been over the past couple of years, putting up those solid 15 points per game that we like to see from Ramondre Stevenson, then he can be classified as a guy that, I'm not hating to start, but not loving by any means either. Then we got the Ulos brothers. If you're starting these guys are sitting at your running back 1. I know a lot of us had guys like Nick Chubb or James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, A-Chain, guys who went down, and now we're having to look at, the Alexander Madisons of the world, the Antonio Gibsons of the world, and you just pretty much lost if you have these guys, in your top 2 running back positions. It's unfortunate to be in that situation, but you got to trade out of those situations and understand that you can lose like your top running back to get other pieces, to balance out your team a little bit. Then we got the oh-no's. Guys like Cam Akers. Cam Akers hasn't been doing anything for the Vikings at all. Last week only played 9 snaps for the Vikings, so terrible situation over there. Dalvin Cook doesn't exist anymore. He just got paid that nice little contract that he had from the Jets, and they're more, apt to just go with Breece Hall and let Breece Hall be the starting running back for this team. Not much Dalvin Cook action. Zeke not doing too much either. He's got to sit behind Ramondre Stevenson. If you had Nick Chubb, you're sad about that. Deontay Foreman had his chance this week. He really did to come in and try to take the job. He didn't do much in that game either. Leonard Fournette, James Conner, Aaron Jones, A-Chain, and Dobbins all currently out. So just a bad running back situation, honestly. If you have any of those guys, we want to be sticking with the cream of the crop up there if we can, but we know that it's very tough here out in fantasy football at the moment here in Week 7. Guys, trade out of these situations. If you have to lose your best player, it's not the end of the world. Trade out of the situation, get 2 guys back, that you like, that you believe in, and just kind of go from there. That's going to be my running back tiers. When I come back, let's talk wide receivers and wrap up the show. Appreciate you guys watching, and check out the Patreon. Drop a tip if you're so inclined. Always love that. And, we'll be back for wide receivers. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Let's wrap up this show here with my wide receiver tier rankings. We're going to be doing tier rankings every single Wednesday moving forward, just because I like them. I think they're really funny to talk about these guys. And we're starting off with I put my whole team on my back, though, guys. Guys who are really solid. Absolutely wide receiver ones. The elites. Best wide receiver 2 options. Good wide receiver 2 / flex options over there in the third tier. And then we're going to have what we got? We got the not happy with wide receiver 2 or flex positions over there. Guys with actual potential in their offense, guys that I'm like decently liking, think they have upside, guys that I wouldn't touch with a 34-foot pole, and then finally not even sure if they mama would start them in fantasy football. Yeah, guys, let's get into these wide receivers. Tyreek Hill, monster. If you have any way to get Tyreek Hill, absolutely recommend doing that. I think right now he's probably the best fantasy player in all of fantasy football. Love him. Stephon Diggs, another 100-yard game from him. Like I said, 5 out of the 6 games that he's played so far with 100-yard games. Keenan Allen doing pretty much the same type of thing. Obviously, a wide receiver 1 over there for the Chargers. Him and Justin Herbert just have that chemistry, and they love working with each other, so we're going to keep rocking with them. A.J. Brown has been going crazy so far this year. Another 125-plus yard game. He's definitely at least done that his last 2 games with his 175 in week 5, and then came back with like 130 in week 6. Cooper Kupp automatically getting slotted in, and then also Amon-Ra St. Brown, just another guy. Probably had him at like the elites, and then he even had to move up to the S tier guys who are really doing well. Let's talk about the elites here. The Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, Olave. Had to move Devontae Adams down from the S tier down to the elite wide receivers after his last 2 performances. CeeDee Lamb, and then Michael Pittman, who's obviously been performing really well at the moment. It seems like Gardner Minshew really relies on Michael Pittman to do work in his offense. And I'm really liking what we're seeing over there. He's getting like 10-plus targets most games. So going to put him as an elite wide receiver 1. And someone who I'm not afraid to have at your wide receiver 1. That's why I really liked grabbing the running backs early this year and then waiting on these wide receivers, because there's a lot more options to pick from. Then we got the best wide receiver 2 options, guys like Jalen Waddle. Mike Evans maybe should be thrown in the elite category because he's hard to have playing as your wide receiver 2. But if you have him at wide receiver 2, he'd be one of your best options. Adam Thielen's the only guy that plays football for the Panthers from a receiving standpoint or a fantasy standpoint at all. So if you have a chance to grab him, I think he's a buy low still, even sitting at wide receiver 3 in fantasy football. Devontae Smith, solid. Brandon Ayuk, solid. Definitely going to be a wide receiver 1 for the 49ers moving forward. Had to put Jordan Addison in there after the Justin Jefferson dues. And, his rookie campaign has been crazy. He's been doing a lot, scoring a lot of touchdowns. So going to put him as one of the best wide receiver 2 options. Then we'll round it out here with Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins, who I think has a lot of potential in this offense still. Had a really good game week 5, and then week 6 didn't do too much. Still believe in him. Garrett Wilson, obvious wide receiver 1. Jacoby Myers, who's been getting way more attention than Devontae Adams so far this year, and especially in the last 2 games. So I'm throwing him up there as well. And then obviously DJ Moore, who has been Justin Fields' absolute favorite target with the backup quarterback situation. I'm not loving him going into week 7, but we'll see what happens. Then we got the good wide receiver / flex options. If you have, if you find any way to get 3 of those guys up there in your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and then flex positions, you are looking good. You're looking great. But if you don't, you're like most of us who have to settle for guys lower on the list here. It's tough. But we got to pick our spots where we can. I like Nico Collins. He's obviously going to be the wide receiver 1 over there for Houston. Michigan alum, very solid, tall, strong wide receiver like him. Zay Flowers coming on. Coming on strong so far this season, getting a ton of targets and scored a touchdown in this last week, so love that. Christian Watson, wide receiver 1 for the Packers. Chris Godwin. Going to put Deebo Samuel here as a good flex option, good wide receiver 2 option. Gabe Davis has been decent on that touchdown streak that I was talking about so far this season. Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley, and Christian Kirk, obviously the duo for the Jaguars. Guys who are solid. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence going to be looking to air the ball out a lot, and mostly it's going to be to these 2 guys. Have to worry about Evan Ingram working into those targets too. Marquise Hollywood-Brown, another 4.3 speed type guy, so got to talk about him. As soon as Kyler Murray comes back, we know that he favors Marquise Hollywood-Brown, so like him as soon as Kyler gets back, but even like him as Joshua Dobbs as a quarterback still. George Pickens, the wide receiver duo for the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton getting a nice bit of attention. Maybe one of those guys will be traded here soon. And then Drake London, who is definitely the favorite target for Desmond Ridder and the Falcons. Desmond Ridder, I have him ranked as the worst quarterback in the entire league. So it's really hard to be a ball catcher when you don't have an amazing quarterback. Then we got even lower into the list. And we're going low here. We're going real low. Alan Lazard, with Zach Wilson, he's getting a ton of snaps, but not getting a ton of production. He's seeing something, so it's not like you can't start him at your flex position, but I'm definitely not happy. Tyler Boyd has actually been performing and doing a little bit more, so maybe you can stick him farther up on this list if you'd like. Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 1. Dobbs, technically, wide receiver 2 for the Packers, but gets a lot of work. Robert Woods, Zay Jones, KJ Osborne, Rashad Bateman, and Michael Gallup. We're not liking starting those guys. We don't even need to give them more attention than they have already gotten. We just don't like starting those guys. If I had to pick out of those 4 dudes right there, I would go with Robert Woods at the moment. CJ Stroud is looking to be revamping Robert Woods' career, so I'm cool with starting him at your flex if you're desperate. Then we got guys with potential, guys with actual potential in their offenses. Josh Downs is someone who I really like over there for the Colts, slot receiver. Jaden Reed, the slot receiver for the Packers, very explosive athlete out of Michigan State. I like him. We saw Brandon Cooks getting a little bit more work here this past week, so I had to put him in the guys with potential. He's playing pretty much all of the snaps, but not getting a lot of targets or receptions, but hopefully that'll change. Dak Prescott was talking in the media about how much he does enjoy having Brandon Cooks on the squad, so definitely good. Josh Reynolds, been solid, and then Curtis Samuel on a touchdown streak himself. He's doing a lot of work over there for the Commanders, and it seems like Sam Howell is favoring Curtis Samuel. Definitely a guy that in a lot of leagues you can still pick up on the waiver wire. Guys we don't touch, Jahan Dotson, can't touch him right now. He is deciding to not play football at the moment. Only got 1 target last week, really not doing too much, and he's already a small wide receiver. I'm not loving his situation at the moment. T. Higgins, I'm hating his situation with the injury that he's going through. But obviously still one of the most talented guys. I just don't think that you can touch him right now. If you are in a situation where T. Higgins is on your squad, I think you still got to start him, though, unfortunately. And then Elijah Moore, he's been getting all the targets. He's been getting all the hype, especially like preseason going into the regular season, and it really has not panned out for any fantasy owners. Then guys who their moms would not even start. Obviously, we can't be touching any of these guys. Juju Smith-Schuster, no. Isaiah Hodgins, no. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, no. Marvin Jones, no one anyway, and he's getting his spot pretty much taken by Jamison Williams over there, and then Hunter Renfrow. We were expecting somehow for him to have a little bit better season, and he really hasn't done that either. So that's going to wrap it up here for my wide receiver tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed. Obviously, drop a comment if you disagree or agree with any of my picks here. But guys, that's going to wrap up the live show. Definitely going to be going live on the Patreon here soon, so make sure you tune in for that. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m.